Take it away, Chair.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Directors of the Peninsula Clean Energy Authority's agenda meeting for Thursday, June 25th, 6:30 p.m. Roll call.
When I call your jurisdiction, if you'll please state your name, San Mateo County.
Yes, just need to.
San Mateo County. Atherton,
Belmont.
Belmont,
Brisbane.
Brisbane,
Colleen Mackin.
Burlingame, Homa, Bailey City,
Teresa Branya.
Palo Alto, Boston City, Half a Day, Hillsborough,
Leslie Ragsdale.
Los Banos,
Michael Amabil.
Menlo Park,
Josie Nash.
Millbrae, Pacifica,
Christine Bowles.
Portola Valley,
Rebecca Flynn.
Redwood City,
Homer Martinez.
San Bruno,
Marty Medina.
San Carlos,
John Egan.
Gemtail,
Adam Lorraine.
South San Francisco,
James Coleman.
Woodside.
Son Breeze.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Our next item on the agenda is public comment for items that are not on the agenda. If we have any members of the public who would like to give comment, if you'll please raise your hand in the Zoom app. We have no members of the public in the room. We do have one member online, who I will pop up here. One moment, please, Gerard. Gerard, you should be now able to unmute and turn on your camera if you would like to give your comment.
Good evening, Board, and thanks for a chance to address you. I'm Jared Manning from Burlingame. I want to highlight a huge clean energy and climate opportunity and the pivotal role that PCE may play in it. The Air District now plans to phase out domestic gas water heaters for health reasons, but it has an absolutely enormous climate co-benefit, the elimination of over 5 million tons of CO2 emissions every year. That's a crazy big number. It's just hard to comprehend. But consider this. It's like electrifying Caltrain 20 times over. It's like promising to never again drive your car and convincing 1 million of your neighbors to do likewise. And in just 1 year, it is 3 times the emission savings of all PCE activities from 2017 to 2022. So if this goes ahead, it would be the climate impact of spinning up over 20 new PCEs. You may have heard that fossil fuel companies and their big business allies have been running an active misinformation campaign against the Air District and against these standards, and convinced almost half the board that clean air and saving the climate should be deferred in the name of affordability. Well, PCE can help address that. Your rebates have been key to make heat pumps affordable, but they won't scale to match the 5 to 10-fold increase in demand when the rule kicks in. However, your innovative financing programs offer a real chance to solve that affordability problem in a way that you too can afford. I'm asking you to accelerate your newest financing plans, encourage other CCAs to share in that program, and communicate clearly to the Air District that you will be ready to keep supporting your customers when the new standards kick in late next year. And please do all of this before November, when the Air District Board votes to continue or kill these standards. PCE does many amazing things. Helping pass these new standards may well be the greatest thing for climate you ever do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. That concludes public comment. Our next item on the agenda is closed session for public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54-957 sub B sub 4. I'm not sure how to read that. For our Chief Executive Officer in a conference with labor negotiators. And we will reconvene after open session. Sorry, we'll reconvene after closed session to report any actions taken during closed session. And so at this time, this meeting will be on pause and this room will disconnect. If you're online, you're welcome to stay online with us through closed session while we're on pause. We anticipate this taking at least 30-45 minutes to maybe an hour. So just I would check back around 30 minutes, 45,
Sure, 30 minutes.
30 minutes. We'll check back in around 30 minutes.
And the mayor of Los Angeles can't participate?
Yes, he will.
Oh, okay.
I have a separate link set up for him to come and join us. Okay, for now, this room shall disconnect. Oh, and by for now, I mean, you can keep it down. Chair Medina?
Yes,
We are ready.
we are ready. We gonna reconvene the meeting with no reportable action.
That's correct.
Okay. All right,
Which.
I know, interesting. Way back there.
This is
but-
why we're gonna have a new board member.
Right. So thank you all for your patience and we're ready to start the regular meeting. Yeah.
Great. Our next item on the agenda will be an action to set the agenda and approve remaining consent agenda items. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda items? If there's any public comment online in the Zoom platform, if you'll please raise your hand. And in the room, I don't believe we have any members of the public. Seeing no hands raised online, we get a motion
Yes.
in a second for the consent agenda.
Director DeGolia, second to Director Nash. Sorry if I didn't miss it over there, but I heard.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County. Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont,
Yes.
Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma,
Yes.
Daly City,
Yes.
East Palo Alto, Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley,
Yes.
Redwood City. Redwood City. Oh, you must be in the restroom. Okay, I'll circle back. San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco,
Yes.
Woodside.
Yes.
You. And motion passes without our board member. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the chair report.
Chair report. I got a chair report with a slide.
Where's the clicker?
In front of you.
Oh, okay.
It's the first time, so be careful. Important announcement, this is our last board meeting as Peninsula Clean Energy, so you could shed a tear if you'd like. Westlight goes live on July 1st, so. It's happening, right? All right, I think there's another slide. All right, so it was amazing to go visit Sunzia in New Mexico. I was able to go with our Director Rick DeGolia and our CEO Sean Marshall. It was really amazing. As I'm reading off of this slide here, 3.65 gigawatts, 550 miles of transmission line with enough power to take care of 1 million homes.
Wow.
It's amazing. The largest wind project in the Western Hemisphere,
Wow.
delivering power.
Largest energy project in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
It's our generation's Hoover Dam.
Ooh, that's nice.
That's a quote from Marty. Really,
So
two Diablo Canyons, that's how much power it
Wow.
produces.
Wow.
that one picture right there, it doesn't even touch the scale. As we were driving to the project, you would see just something over here, but it goes on for miles, right? So continue on. There's 12 off-takers of the energy, including 8 CCAs. PC's chairs, 15-year, 220 megawatts, starting 5/23/2026. So it's we're getting the power. The whole team was there from Pattern Energy and all the equipment manufacturers. The jobs that were created, 90% local hire, all the benefits that were provided to the community. It was really amazing. And I felt like overwhelmed with pride that we got a piece of this, right? And it was amazing. Yes.
Those are the days you know it's all worth it.
Mhm.
It was great. Okay. Anything else?
We had one more ribbon cutting. Is that gonna be later on?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good. Thank you.
Shall I move on the mic?
Our next item on the agenda is CEO report.
Okay. First up is the next ribbon cutting. There were 2 in 1 week. Do want to shout out to Roy Zhu, our Director of Power Resources, who attended our tumbleweed ribbon cutting down in Kern County. This is the first 8-hour long duration battery project located in Kern County. Also the first operational 8-hour battery in the state of California. This is a project that we did through CC Power, which is a joint powers agency of CCAs. We have 9 members, and the purpose of its existence is to handle joint procurement for projects that are sort of advanced energy type, away from our bread and butter type projects, things that are more cutting edge. And so this took a long time coming. Our share is 15 megawatts of the total 125. That takes us through 2041. We began receiving battery storage capabilities June 1. And those are some pictures. So Roy was there representing PCE, soon to be Westlake. General updates, just a little grab bag here for you all. Many of you know that we, Nick's team, put together a second prepay transaction, which I believe was completed in December. It actually starts saving us money next week. For the second one, it's a total savings of 58 million over an initial 10-year period, or an average of 5.8 million a year. This is the second one. So in addition to the first one, which we began saving us money in February of 25, we now have a savings of $12 million annually, $12 million for the first 7 to 10 years. So that's an annual savings off of our procurement budget that if we didn't do this, we would otherwise be including in our budget. So hats off to Nick and his team. We do not have another one of these planned for this year, but may look to resurrect them next year. Okay, next in the grab bag is, as you heard earlier from Chair Medina, our name change and rebrand is literally upon us. Tomorrow, the team has a freeze day on all IT, so we can't use Box, we can't use Zoom, our emails are down, like we've been told to download everything so we can still have our meetings and still work, but the flip is getting switched internally tomorrow. So that we are ready to go for a public rollout next Wednesday. Our new website will be up on Monday. So there's sort of a sequencing that's going on, like a cascading effect. We're gonna have just a little prayer that all the cascading happens without hiccup. So far, I have to say, that's all. The other thing I really want you to know is that we've, since about 3 weeks ago, we started sending out customer notifications about the new name. Hopefully you all got one, either in hard copy or by mail. So all of our customers have now been notified. There will be more coming. But we've been monitoring opt-outs and call center stats very, very closely as a result, like what's going to happen here. I will say hats off to the call center team. There have been a lot of questions naturally that have come in. Some people wanting to opt out. They've managed to retain 90% of those, 95 actually percent of those calls. So we have not seen any spike up in opt-outs. The truth is in the pudding, because on July 17th is when customers begin to see our new name on their bill. So we do expect here over the next couple of months that the call center will be high volume. They're totally prepared to handle that. And hopefully, what's happened so far will continue to be the case and we won't really see a big spike in opt-out. So I should say, if you all hear of anything or you see anything on social media, any of that, please let us know right away so we can deploy, responses and we can get you the response you need and all of that. So I just have to take a moment and ask for a round of applause for the following people. First, our marketing department led by Gwen Rose, Kirsten Groom, Michael Ardenaldo, Brooke Morales, and Alicia Juarez on our marketing team. Going on to our account services team led by Leslie Brown. Folks there, Jaden Hanan and Stephanie Elmore, who's our call center manager. And our 3 call center reps have been doing an amazing job. And then sort of rounding this out in terms of the pressure cooker, is our IT team led by Ken Lee. And then we have Cassius Gray, Chris Duarte, who are all here tonight. Plus administrative team, like this has touched all of us. So I want to say it is everybody, but these are the people that are working overtime, working this weekend, working into next week to make it all happen. So. They've already met with me to make sure that my system's not gonna crash up. So, okay, next is the new office update. We're moving a pace on this one too. So, the city permit is, looking good. According to Nellie, we have a couple of follow-up questions to answer for the city of San Mateo. On track though to start construction in mid-July, so in about 3 weeks or so. Furniture, vendors and AV vendors are underway. Contracts will be coming to you. Maybe one in July and maybe the other in September. I don't exactly know what Nellie has planned, but they're coming to you for approval. If you guys want to check out our color palette, we'll show and tell over here on your way out tonight. This is what we're looking at in terms of overall color scheme for the office. It's very, very nice, I would say. Want to let you know that there was a grand jury report released last week regarding MCE up in Marin County. We're going to share a link to that report in tomorrow's press roundup. It's not agendized. We're not going to say much. We are using it though as an opportunity to do our own internal operational self-assessment. Because like I said, there's always opportunity for improvement. Overall, however, we think we're in good shape. So that's all I can really say about that. And then last, the board survey, we've only received 13 back. So we would really love to get more. We have 23 board members. So please complete your survey by tomorrow. And then Nellie, were you going to send it out one more time?
Yeah, I'm gonna send it.
Right now. She even said, have them do it during the board meeting. No, maybe. Maybe after the board meeting. So thank you for that. The Dave Pine Community Energy Award, as you all know, will be given for the first time at the Fall Summit at the end of September. The deadline for nominees is Monday, the 29th. I think we have 3 so far. So if you have ideas for a person or a group, an organization that would be a great recipient for this, please let us know by Monday. Okay? There's a little QR code if you want to fill out a nomination form. Okay, I won't move till you're done with QR. Okay, you're good? Okay, cool. This is funny. So, just so you know, you all are going to be on our new website. Nellie created these with a little help of AI and plant background, so all of you will have a picture, and so will the team.
Pictures look familiar.
Yeah.
Thank you for making them no wrinkles.
I know.
Yeah, just to verify everything.
Awesome.
Okay, so now I'm gonna turn it over to Mike and Mark, and then we'll wrap up and get going on the rest.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, directors, colleagues, and members of the public. So I'm here tonight to provide a brief legislative policy update covering developments in both Sacramento and Washington, D.C. Given the limited time available, I'll focus on the most material updates and changes since I developed my memo for your board packet last week. To begin, let's turn to the state level. First, the legislature approved the 2026-2027 budget agreement and codified it through legislation as AB 109, which was signed by the governor. Due to the realization of several major technology IPOs, budget discussions shifted from whether additional revenues may materialize to how the state should use these revenues, whether to expand ongoing programs and or strengthen reserves against future economic downturns. Of additional note, lawmakers deferred most greenhouse gas reduction fund spending decisions until later this summer, meaning significant climate and clean energy funding decisions are still ahead of us. Second, the governor's race is beginning to influence energy policy discussions in Sacramento. While Javier Becerra and Steve Hilton have very different political perspectives, both campaigns reflect a broader shift toward affordability, reliability, and practical implementation of California's clean energy transition. Increasingly, lawmakers are focusing less on how quickly California can move forward on clean energy and more on how best to balance affordability, reliability, and climate objectives as the transition continues. Third, it's been a productive month legislatively, I'm proud to say. I'm pleased to report that the two major Cal CCA bills that we've been talking about have advanced through the legislative process. AB 1761 by Assemblymember Rogers would improve transparency around how the power charge indifference adjustment, or PCIA, is calculated. And that's been referred to Senate Energy, Utilities, and Communications Committee. Because the PCIA is one of the largest and least transparent components of customers' electricity bills, greater transparency would help CCAs better explain rate impacts to customers and plan for the future. SB 1138 by Senator Padilla would improve additional flexibility under the CPUC's Slice of Day Resource Adequacy Framework and help reduce unnecessary procurement while maintaining reliability. That bill is advanced to Senate Appropriations following unanimous Policy Committee approval. Fourth, our co-sponsored transmission planning bill, AB 2111 by Assemblymember Diane Pappin, passed the Senate Energy Committee unanimously and has now been referred to Senate Appropriations. As you may recall, the bill would modernize California's transmission planning process by improving coordination among state agencies and requiring planners to evaluate a range of future scenarios rather than relying primarily on a single forecast. Finally, stepping back, the broader policy conversation in Sacramento continues to center around a few dominant themes: affordability, reliability, accelerated load growth, AI and data centers, transmission infrastructure, and who should bear the costs of building the infrastructure needed to support California's growing electricity demand. If we can go to the next slide, please. Let's transition to the federal level. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So since I developed my memo for your June board packet, here are some notable developments at the federal level. So first, uncertainty remains elevated as Congress and federal agencies continue navigating energy, tax, permitting, and infrastructure policy changes heading into the 2026 midterms. While the policy landscape remains fluid, affordability, reliability, domestic manufacturing, and grid modernization are bipartisan priorities. Second, Congress continues to show bipartisan interest in strengthening electricity reliability. Most notably, Senators Alex Padilla and John Cornyn introduced legislation to reauthorize the Department of Energy's Grid Resilience Grant Program for another 5 years, including continued support for advanced transmission technologies. Third, federal attention on AI, data centers, and other large electrical loads continues to accelerate. Since my memo was prepared, FERC directed CAISO and other regional grid operators to either justify or reform how they serve very large electrical loads. Specifically, FERC called for greater transparency around transmission upgrade costs, stronger protections against cost shifting, clearer interconnection rules, and reforms to help ensure the grid can reliably accommodate growing electricity demand. Fourth, federal electrification policy continues to evolve. The Department of Energy recently revised guidance governing the High Efficiency Electric Home Rebate Program, limiting eligibility for certain gas to electric appliance replacements. While relatively narrow, the change reflects the administration's continued refinement of federal electrification programs. And then finally, bipartisan momentum around permitting reform continues to build. Recently, a bipartisan group of lawmakers introduced the Freedom Act, which would establish enforceable permitting timelines, improve certainty for energy infrastructure projects, and streamline project approvals. While the bill is still in the early stages of the legislative process, it reflects growing bipartisan interest in accelerating energy infrastructure deployment. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Mike? Thank you. Okay, really quick, mark your calendar. The next ribbon cutting, because we seem to like those this year, is on July 29th. It is the Peninsula Pines multifamily project in South San Francisco. This replaces last year's largest project in California, which was Bayview Terrace, as I recall. This is now the biggest one. because there are 200 chargers that have been installed at this apartment complex. There will be a ribbon cutting on the 29th. CPUC Commissioner Baker will be speaking, as will CEC Commissioner Nancy Skinner. So this is a big one for us. I think we've talked about these other dates already, but please put them on your calendar as well. Upcoming meetings, you've got all of these are on our website. A reminder that there will be no public meetings in August, so I hope all of you get to go on some kind of vacation. With that, I'm gonna turn it over. Oh, we need public comment.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Is there any public comment on the chair report or the CEO report? I believe we missed the chair. There's public comment online, so please raise your hand. And see none and none in the room. Our next item on the agenda is approval of the fiscal year 2026 and 2027 budget, which will be presented by Nick Dujour, our Chief Financial Officer.
I want to set this up. You might want to for 1 month.
Sure.
I'm gonna set this up because we are also going to be talking about a shift in rates tonight. Normally, we would take these items sort of together, but because they are, two different actions that the board needs to take per our JPA agreement, we've separated them. But the reason I'm setting it up is that what you're gonna see in the budget is really all of the costs, the bottoms up budgeting that we were referencing earlier. And then we use that in order to really figure out what kind of discount we can afford and what rates we need to set. So there are two different actions, two different presentations, but they do ultimately go together. So take it away, Nick. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I presented a form of this presentation now to the Finance Committee and to the Executive Committee. For those of you who are in those meetings, I apologize in advance. This may be a little bit repetitive. I'll try and spice it up and use somewhat different words, keep it interesting, but I think it's important for everyone to hear the detail of the presentation. So I'll try to go not slowly, but not go too quickly through it. We follow a bottoms up budgeting process. Some companies take sort of a top down and take last year's numbers and just forecast it forward. We really go into detail by department. What costs do you need to spend to run your department, to run the agency? So that's something we've done since I've been here, and I think even before that. We also incorporate DAI principles. That includes, making sure that we are allocating a large portion of our programs budget to low income and disadvantaged communities, ensuring that we are including diverse owned firms in our procurement decisions, as well as making sure that we have a diverse employee base. As I mentioned in the staff report, for the first time, we're always trying to improve the process, continuous improvement. When I joined here almost 2.5 years ago, we didn't have department specific budgets. We were a smaller agency, probably wasn't deemed necessary, but for the first time we rolled out department budgets this year, and we really think that's hopefully we'll see in the variability analysis, but a big improvement will increase accountability, transparency. Everyone can see what's being spent throughout the departments, not just your own area. As I mentioned, just as far as history and context, drafts of this budget, which really haven't changed, to be honest, over the last 2 months. The first draft was presented to the Audit and Finance Committee on May 11th. They were supportive, no significant comments or changes from then, other than just continually updating. And then we presented a slightly updated version, largely the same, to the Executive Committee earlier this month. Final budget is obviously being presented today. I will ask to seek a board vote for approval. Total net costs of just shy of $316 million, which represents a 2% increase over last year. And I'll walk through what's in those costs, of course. And then, as Sean mentioned, we are separating costs from revenues. Normally if you were at I wouldn't say a typical company, but a lot of companies think of the budget as revenues and costs together. We follow cost of service rate making here. So we are very specifically going to discuss what costs are needed to run the agency that we think are appropriate. And then we will set rates to make sure that we collect enough revenues to support that cost profile. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple pages that will look somewhat similar. So I'll try and level set you on what you're looking at here. For those of you, it's a new page. The columns across are the different fiscal years. As a reminder, we are obviously a June 30th fiscal year, so our year ends next week. So fiscal year 25, 26 is the current year that we're in right now. That is our best guess of how we're gonna end up the year. It's not final yet. This is through 10 months, so it assumes 10 months of actual and then 2 months of forecast. And then fiscal year 27 is really what we're talking about here. This is the budget that we're asking your approval. We just think it's helpful to have the context of the 2 years prior, so you can see the increase or decrease. And I'll focus most on what's changing year over year. As far as the different cost categories, this page is obviously our cost of energy. This is, as you've heard me say, by far our largest cost category. It represents, I think, 88% of our costs. So you can see just shy of 300 million this year. As far as the various components of energy, and in reality, I could have broken this out into 50 different categories, but I would have been a little inundating. So this is the way we've sort of come to summarize how our costs are categorized. We've got energy. That is the cost of the electron. Most of this is our PPAs that you all approve, so the cost of the actual electricity that we're purchasing from CAISO. Capacity is largely a compliance cost, not entirely, but that is the resource adequacy. You've heard us talk about RA. That is the cost that we have to pay to make sure there is enough potential power on the grid. It also includes our storage costs. So that number will go up over the next few years because we're adding more and more batteries to our portfolio. REC/GHG, that's renewable energy credit, and GHG free products. These are attributes that sometimes we have to purchase if we're purchasing electricity separate from the PPAs that we enter into. In the past, this was a larger number. As our PPAs come online, we don't need to purchase as many RECs, and we're actually seeing ourselves in an excess position. And you can see in our budget year, we're forecasting a slight sale. And then other includes, it's a small number, but it's a net energy metering cost we pay for our solar customers. It includes the forecasting and scheduling costs for the company that helps us manage a lot of the back office. So those are the categories. And then the final category there is contingency. For those of you who've been around, we've historically, well, not always, but for the last few years, we've included what we think is an appropriate contingency. Energy markets are incredibly volatile. We do our best to hedge ourselves to price exposure, but we're still somewhat exposed. But the bigger risk is volume. We could have heat waves. We haven't in the last few years, so knock on wood. But one day we could wake up and find ourselves having to purchase a lot more electricity than we had budgeted. And often that's at the highest price. So we've included, it's typically ranged between 7 and 10% of the total cost of energy. Last year it was 6.6%, 21 million. This year, talking to Roy and his team, we think 20 million is an appropriate amount of contingency. This year we didn't have to use it, so knock on wood, next year we won't either. But this was something that the board, I think, directed a couple of years ago. So that's sort of just what we're seeing on the page. As far as the numbers, you can see the top number, the energy. We are expecting a slight increase in the cost of energy. Excuse me, sorry, that's the total number, 3%. Total cost of $299. We do expect that's a slight increase over last year. That's driven by a couple up and down factors. Energy prices, we hear about inflation and AI and think cost of electricity is going up. We're actually seeing in California prices decreasing. And so we're benefiting from that. You can see on the energy line, 222 down to $204 million. That's what we're budgeting. And that also assumes about 2% load growth, which is, we think, an appropriate number. Capacity, we're seeing a slight increase year over year, 62 to 74 million. That's largely driven by the storage contracts that we've all entered into over the last few years coming online. REC GHG free, you can see we are actually expecting to be a net seller of those products. So that's a nice pickup. And then other is a small dollar, and then the contingency I mentioned. Delayed damages, I didn't mention that. That's not something we usually plan for. We often, and in our contracts that we enter into, we try and put some protection there if things go wrong with our PPAs, if they don't come online in time. This one here, the 2.4 million in the budget year, is because one of our contracts, Mustang transformer broke or blew up or something like that. So it's offline for like a year. So fortunately, we've negotiated in our contract delay damage payments, and we actually are better off because we can now purchase in the market with prices are lower. So that's a summary cost of energy. Again, it's a 3% increase, but that's also following a 19% decrease last year. So it's a pretty nice trend down. And if we don't have to use the contingency, it'll be actually a decrease year over year. Any questions? And I have one of these pages for sort of all of our cost categories, but this is obviously our largest one. So before I move to the next page, I want to see if there's any questions on cost of energy. And hopefully Roy is online if something I can't answer. Okay, hearing none. I'll move to the next category. These are operating expenses. I will caveat that we typically include programs, Raphael's department, in operating expenses, but because that's such a large number, we sort of separated that out, and we'll talk about that on the next page. But this is all the other costs. These are costs that I'd like to think we can control a little more. On the cost of energy, we are largely beholden to the markets. Prices go up or down, we have to pay the market price. We need to flow the electrons into our customers' houses. These are a little more variable, things we can control. Again, same layout, fiscal year 25, 26, and then the budget year of 27. Hopefully the categories are somewhat self-explanatory. I think the story here is we've really seen the growth in our operating expenses moderating. You can see at the bottom line, you know, we had to catch up to build out a lot of the infrastructure, build out our employees, the risk function, a lot of the marketing functions. We built that up over the last few years, but we're sort of now more in a steady state. We're expecting a more what I call normal growth rate in operating expenses. A couple things to call out here. On the compensation line, for the first time, I think ever, we are not forecasting, we have not budgeted any new headcount. As I mentioned, we've caught up in the last few years, we've added tremendously to the agency, but we think we're at a pretty steady state, at least for the next year. We may have to add some headcount in the years after, but in the budget year, we're assuming no new headcount and a 5% salary escalation. Couple of the other support costs, consulting and legal combined. A lot of that increase, and it's not a huge amount, is driven to support the new brand rollout, which you're all aware. We want to make sure we get the word out. We built out the innovation strategies department with Yana this past year, and so there's some costs there on some of the projects that she's, I know, shared with you at the board meeting in the past. Communications and grants, modest increase. That's largely to support programs, specifically buildings, home electrification. Again, we need to make sure we market those programs, get the news out. And general and administrative, that's a little bit of a catch-all. The largest category in there is software costs, or at least the largest driver of the increase has been software costs. We are investing in various forms of, efficiency opportunities, using technology wherever we can. And so we've seen those costs increase over the last few years. One thing that's offsetting some of that increase is in the budget year, in our new office, we were able to negotiate 6 months of free rent. And so rent is included in that line item, but something that we're getting about $400,000 of savings in the budget year. Wow. Any questions on these categories? Okay.
So, as a city recently hit with a cyber attack, do you feel like you have the protections and the software and the systems in place? Obviously, nothing is perfect and nothing is impermeable, but
we do.
You feel like you're comfortable with
where you're at? As you said, there's always opportunity improvements. I can't, but that is some of the software expenses that we spent. Kim is here if she wanted to add any more color. She's probably in the back there, but we've invested in a fair amount of technologies to protect us. We hired a consultant to build out a playbook should something ever happen, so we know exactly what to do, and we feel that we are appropriately protected. Okay, I'll keep going. The next cost category is programs. Again, we typically think of these as operating expenses, and you'll see that on the income statement, but we wanted to give special attention to it. We're showing this a little differently. Again, same layout as you can imagine. The top box are expenses, and I'll go through each of those rows and what's driving the increases and some decreases. But we've also thought it was important to show some of the reimbursements, the money we get coming back in from grants or the CPUC. And then so the bottom, we've netted those out, it's just math, and you can see net really, well, not much of an increase at all, at least to the budget year. This is Raphael's area, if it's not obvious. This is the way he likes to characterize his programs. You've seen the wheel that he uses, so these are the various pizza slices. Is that appropriate, Raphael? Buildings is the largest expense, as well as a big driver of the increase. We are expecting a lot of uptake in our home upgrade program next year, specifically income qualified, which does cost more money because we're paying for all the upgrades. The general market programs are pretty steady state, not increase or decrease, but the driver there from 6.7 to 8.3 is really income qualified. Electric vehicles is a decrease. Well, it was an increase in fiscal year 26 and then a decrease. We saw a huge uptake in our e-bike program last year, almost more than we could handle. We sort of put a little bit of a pause on that, and we're moving from a around-the-clock program to periodic, I think once or twice a year, monthly, sorry. So we expect a more of a steady state. You can see it went from 4.3, it really ballooned this past year, more than we expect, and we sort of expect that coming back to a normal year. Distributed energy, those are small dollars. Those are mostly program administrative support, mostly in Yana's area also. Energy efficiency, these are funding that we are actually getting almost or entirely fully reimbursed. So here, this is an appropriate line item where you need to sort of connect the dots to the down below where you see energy efficiency funding. And so while we're expecting to spend $1.6 million, that is entirely offset, actually, and some from funds that we will receive from the CPUC. The reason it's actually more money is coming back is because it also funds some of our employee costs. And so net, we actually, I wouldn't say we're making money, but it looks like on this page, we're not actually making money on the program, but it's funding other things than the incentives. So these are the program costs. As you can see on the net expense, a pretty modest increase, 14.3 to 14.8. Any questions? Raphael's here also to answer anything. I'm hoping the lack of questions just means because I'm being so clear and articulate, but or it could be late. Okay, so programs. Programs is a little bit, I wouldn't say complicated, but we group programs in two categories. There's expenses. These are mostly dollars spent in year, mostly incentives, so checks we write or money we send to customers. But programs is one of the only categories where we also have capital. And for those of you who are somewhat familiar with finance terms, there is a difference between capital and expense. Capital, I think of, it's probably not the right accounting term, but like hard assets, things that you're building that the value will be received over multiple years. Could be you buy a computer and you use that for 7 years, maybe 5 years, or it could be we're putting panels on rooftops and those are going to be on there for 20 years. And so capital is treated differently on financial statements. Maybe it doesn't matter for you because it's still cash out the door, but we do treat the dollars differently. And so these are the capital expenses associated with Raphael's programs. First one is on-bill financing. I take that back what I said, because this actually isn't things that we're building, but this is like a loan that we are lending to customers. So these are money that we lend out and they put energy efficiency or, they do electrify their home and they pay us back over 10 years or something like that, 5 years. So it comes back. So it's money that goes out and then it comes back in. And that's why it's considered capital versus an expense. And again, this is a category where you got to sort of connect the dots between the money going out, which is the top box section, and the money coming in, which is the next section. And so you can see 3.6 million of loans out to customers. Next year, we're expecting to receive about 2 million. That's money, that's loans that we've given for the last few years. In the forecast period, which you can't see on this page, we expect this actually to be largely self-funding. So all money goes out will basically come back in from loans that we've given in the years before. So it's kind of a net neutral cash, but wanted to make sure we're showing it here. The main capital program here is the GovPV program, which I'm guessing you're all very familiar with. These are I think it's like 26 sites or something right now on buildings. 36, sorry. Solar on aquatic centers and libraries and the like. You can see the dollars spent last 2 years, 7.4 million, 12 million in the current year. The 5.7 that we're budgeting is for the GovPV3 program, which I think is 6 new sites or five new sites, GovPV3. 5 new sites plus including batteries in some of the GovPV1 and GovPV2 sites. So this is the last year you'll probably see GovPV capital. Well, I don't want to guarantee, nothing for sure, but our one thing we were looking at is potentially using bank capital to build these sites. And as a result, you wouldn't see it then on cash sort of going out the door. But for the budget year, we're forecasting 5.7 million of expense. Again, this money will come back over the next 20 years in the form of GovPV revenues. That's the PPA payments that all of you pay for the electricity. And you can see that again in the section below, GovPV revenue. The last type of capital that I'll highlight is the new office capital. We've talked about this, $1.2 million. This includes 3 buckets. The first of which is $500,000 to build out the office. This is not the total cost. The total cost is more like 1.4 million, but we negotiated in our lease for the landlord to basically pay the first 900,000. And so this is the cost over and above that $900,000. 600,000 is our estimate for the furniture that Sean mentioned and the AV equipment. And then the new site didn't have sufficient EV chargers. Obviously, it's important to us. We want to lead by example and eat our own cooking, so to speak. And so we are including 10 new EV chargers at our own cost at this building. And so that's the total. I will just caveat that you could think of these also costs are being offset somewhat by the 6 months of free rent that we negotiated that I mentioned before. They just show up in different parts of the financials. So that's the capital. Again, the way we've laid out this page, and I probably didn't say this in the beginning, is the top section is sort of cash going out the door. Capital spent. The next section is money that's coming in. So that's the on-bill financing, the loan repayments, the GovPV revenues, that's the PPA revenue. And the one thing I haven't mentioned is investment tax credit. On the GovPV programs, pre-current administration, we've been able to collect 35%, is it? 30 to 40, depends on where it's located. Of the total cost, we can get a credit from the government for putting panels on the roofs. And so you can see we got about $3.9 million 2 years ago, nothing in this current year, but we're expecting 7.5 million for money spent on GovPV2. So that's cash coming in. It's a one-time, it won't continue, but it's a nice cash windfall. So the net capital for this year is actually negative. Again, it's a little bit abnormal because of the investment tax credit, but that's what you see at the bottom. Any questions on capital? And tell me if I'm going too slow, Sean, sorry.
Yeah, stuff.
Okay. Okay, last page on budget. So those are all the numbers. This is a summary of all the costs. You could probably tick and tie if you wanted, trust me, or you don't have to trust me, you can do it later, but they add up on this page. But these are the costs that we've all talked about, so I won't go through them in more detail, but it's the cost of energy on that first page, the operating expenses, which are that one page of operating expenses plus the programs. We usually think of both those as operating expenses. And then there's various categories of money that do come back to us. There's non-operating income, which I actually haven't mentioned yet. That's the cash on our balance sheet. We earn interest income. Rates have been pretty generous for the last few years, about 3.5%. And that also includes the investment tax credit. So that's why you see the increase from last year. Non-electricity revenues, that includes the GovPV revenues, grants, the delayed damages I mentioned, and some reimbursements we get from the CPUC related to DAC-GT, which is actually a program on the consent item today. And then the Eco 100 revenues, which is the 1 cent we collect for our 100% product. All of that, pluses and minuses, adds up to the 315.9 million, which I mentioned on the first page. And that is the total net cost that we are seeking approval for. Again, I'm repeating myself, but that represents a 2% increase from last year, so pretty modest. But I think another important data point is last year, or the current year we're in, is a 15% decrease from the year before. So you can see our cost profile is steadily decreasing. So that's my presentation. Though the other thing I'll say here is we haven't talked about rates or revenues, which are important, and so we will cover that in the next section as soon as we approve this, and we will set rates sufficient to cover these costs with support of the rate stabilization fund. But before we get there, we wanted to get approval on the budget, the costs.
Okay. Looking for questions?
What is the basic reason of the cost of unit cost of energy that is fall? I know it's an auction market.
I mean, is Roy on the phone? Is he?
Roy may be traveling.
It's supply demand, it's a market, there was a, I don't wanna say, I'm not an expert in the energy markets as Roy is, but there was, some would say maybe an overbuild of electricity over the last few years.
Roy's on.
Oh, it's Roy, oh, there he is, okay, good, Roy, you can address, sorry.
Are you there, Roy? May have stuff to learn.
He's here, there he is, he's coming.
That's back on
He's
me.
probably having dinner or something.
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what's the basic reason that the unit price of electricity is dropping?
The unit price, when we look at the cost of energy, the dollar per megawatt hour is dropping. Is that the question?
Yeah, why?
What's the driver in our lower cost of energy?
Yeah. So if you recall, last couple of years we had let me turn on my camera quick. Yeah, last couple of years we had a spike in RA prices and also renewable energy credits prices all skyrocketed. And since then, I think in 2025 starting, we are seeing a decrease in these short-term products prices, and these commodity prices come down, and therefore the unit price of the energy, which encompasses all of the products that we procure, including RA, RECs, and energy costs, are all coming down. And we also have quite a few new long-term contracts coming online in the past couple of years, and those are fixed price contracts that also reduce the volatility that we're exposed to the market. So a combination of factors contributed to the lower cost of energy.
Thank you, Roy.
No problem.
Any other questions? No other questions? Entertain a motion?
Next public comment. Public comment.
Sorry.
My bad.
It's okay. Public comment?
If there are any members of the public online who would like to give a comment, so please raise your hand in the Zoom app. None online.
None in the room? Okay, move to approve from,
I'll second.
and second from Jimenez. Roll call vote?
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County. Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont,
Yes.
Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma,
Yes.
Daly City,
Yes.
East Palo Alto, Foster City. Yes. Half Bay.
Yes.
Hillsborough.
Yes.
Los Banos.
Yes.
Menlo Park.
Yes.
Gilbray.
Yes.
Pacifica.
Yes.
Portola Valley.
Yes.
Redwood City.
Yes.
San Bruno.
Yes.
San Carlos. Stepped away. San Mateo.
Yes.
South San Francisco.
Yes.
Woodside.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm still up. So now we're going to talk about revenue and rates. I'm going to be joined by Justin Kudo. Could you come up and tag team with me? We're sort of flip-flopping on pages. Before we get into revenue and rates, and I'll give Justin, will present the next page. But as you all know, one of our overall goals is to offer a product priced less than PG&E. It's not a mandate, but something we really strive to achieve. As you also all know, we've done PCIA workshops and PCIA 101. The ability to do that is very much driven by what the PCIA rates are, and they change every year. And so before I get into some of the scenarios and options, I wanted Justin to give a little update on what's been going on with the PCIA PG&E rates. So this is our competition, what we're trying to track, and how that impacts potentially the rate that we can charge our customers.
All right, thank you for that introduction. So what you're looking at here, this line, is something that I'm always very focused on. And this graph here goes from 2020 all the way through 2030, and will momentarily show our forecast as well. What this number is something that I refer to as a net parity rate. When our customers take service from Peninsula Clean Energy, they stop paying PG&E's generation rates, and they start paying our vintage PCIA that comes from PG&E. So the difference between those two is essentially the number that you sort of have to beat if you want to be lower than PG&E. So to the extent that a CCA has rates above this blue line, they are more expensive than PG&E. If rates are below this blue line, they are less expensive than PG&E. You can kind of see how this has evolved over time. In 2020 and 2021, we had market conditions that were very low. That raises the PCIA and it lowers PG&E's generation rate. And so that is much more challenging for us in terms of rate competitiveness. We did see market prices go up pretty significantly in 2022 and beyond. And so as a result, you can see the net parity rate grew quite a bit. In 2026, we had a pretty sharp decrease to the price of resource adequacy. And without getting into too much detail, that caused the net parity rate to drop quite a bit. It caused PCIA to go up. We were hopefully looking at that stabilizing going into 2027. However, decreases to brown power and to RPS costs have resulted in the net parity rate being forecast internally to decrease even further in 2027 before stabilizing in 2028. Given that PCE has such a strong value proposition built around cost savings, we have presumed in the budget to be reducing rates as well. But we wanted to make sure it's clear here what the monetary impacts of that are. Reducing rates by about 1 cent or increasing them by 1 cent results in a $35 million change in our annual revenue. So as a result of all this, we're pointing out a need to revisit the current 10% discount and to ensure that we have sufficient revenues.
Thanks. I thought that would just be helpful context of a little bit of the headwinds we're heading into just for 2027. As you can see, we expected to pick that up. This is our competition rate, our parity rate. We thought 26 would be a one-year blip, but unfortunately it's not. So we got to roll with the punches. So what I'm going to show in the next few pages is several scenarios of what if we set our rates at different discount levels. And to give you the information and hopefully build a case for at least our recommendation. So we've shown 3 different scenarios. They're just even number, somewhat even numbers. The first one is our current 10% discount. This is the revenues, the electricity sales we would collect if we set our rates at a 10% discount, so 10% below that line you just saw for the next 5 years. You can see 211 million increasing because of that line was slightly going up. The next scenario, and the math here is not too complicated, you can probably guess where the bars are going to go. If we were to offer a 5% discount, which is what we used to historically offer since our founding up until 18 months ago, you can see the revenue, so slightly more than the 10%. And then we've thrown in for kicks a 1% scenario. Our goal is to never be at parity or, God forbid, higher than PG&E. But some of our peers, as you'll see in another page, do offer a 1% discount when needed just to weather some storm, but always be below PG&E. So you can see the line, the bars there. Important line, which we added here, is the revenue requirement, which is essentially that net cost number that I mentioned. So this is the revenue that we would require if we wanted to fully cover our costs. So that first number on the line, that 316 million, as you may remember, that's that number that we just approved, or you just approved for net costs. So we are expecting the cost to run the agency, which you just approved, of $316 million. And in all three of those scenarios, you can see the bar is below the revenue. And it only sort of gets closer to the line in the outer years. This is the challenge that we're in. Don't worry, we have the resources to weather it, but I just want to lay it out. The next page is the change in net position, which is basically revenues less costs. So it's not rocket science math. It's basically the difference between that line on that prior page and all those bars. So this is the three scenarios, the same outlook. Under the 10% scenario, you can see the change in net position. Some companies think of this as the loss or profit. For us, it's a loss for us. We would lose $119 million in the next 2 years if we were to continue to offer a 10% discount. It gets better as we get in the out years because those bars get closer to the blue line, but we are still always losing money. You can probably guess where these bars go. If we were to do a 5% discount, it's a little better, not great. And then a 1% discount, in the out years, we get very, very close. So you can see cumulatively, if you were to add up all these numbers, if we were to keep a 10% discount, which you can probably guess we're not recommending, we would have a cumulative 5-year net loss of $367 million. And you can see the numbers for the other scenarios. As a reminder, we do have the rate stabilization fund and cash, but the rate stabilization fund is currently funded at $128 million. We are hoping to be able to increase that by about 30 million this year, so could get us to about 160 million, but not really enough on those three scenarios. So this is just some context, hopefully laying the groundwork of where we're going. The final graph I'm going to show before I hand it back to Justin is cash. What does this mean for cash? Because cash is important. I'm showing graphs here, not so much cash. It's a metric we use that's based on cash. So I would say it is a proxy for cash. It's days cash on hand. You've probably heard us use this term before. It's cash relative to our annual expenses. All of our peers use this number. We compare it against each other. It's a common metric used by the rating agencies and others. And you can see the days cash on hand under the three scenarios, 10, 5, and 1%. We've also layered in here our target days cash on hand, which the board approved. This is something we target to. It's not a requirement, but we would like to maintain about 250 days cash on hand. So you can see in all three scenarios, we kind of dip below that target, at least in the outer years. The 10% we dip down right away. And then the bottom dotted line is our minimum. This is a board mandated board policy minimum. And if we ever get below this line, we have to take action, which is either increase rates or reduce costs. And so that's something we never want to be in a position of below 180 days. And you can see in a couple of scenarios, we even get there in the outer years. Now I'm going to turn it back to Justin to do a little benchmarking on what do other people do? CCAs. Oh, sorry, question?
So did we run an analysis of what it would take for us to break even?
Yes.
So we know how much we would have to charge in excess?
Well, it depends. When you mean break even,
Break even
change
on
in
the-
that position?
Not just in operations. What we didn't have any reserves and we didn't have a fund, we had to operate them. I'm just curious, is it a 5% increase PG&E, 10% increase?
I don't have that. It would be a scary number for the first year out. If we wanted, and we didn't have any cash cushion, it would probably be like a 60% premium to PG&E. I mean, we're planning to lose 100. I could probably do the math in the back and not that much.
No, it's not bad, but it is higher, yeah.
That does seem excessively high.
Because we are losing under 100 and anyway, $98 million or something like that. So we'd have to collect revenues to
Cover that.
cover that.
I do think those numbers are important to have and understand just because we do have our reserves and it's really good, but to understand what the future looks like, if our reserves go out and where we would end up in terms of a premium.
We can, but some of that's gonna be predicated upon forecasting what PG&E's rates are
and PC,
and the
PCIA.
PCIA, which is like maybe 2 years, but
Well,
after
even if
that,
we
it's.
just did this year, just to understand
Yeah, I
it,
think they have it,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, we don't have the tip, I mean, we could get it to you.
we have it.
We're fortunate, interesting exercise, obviously, we're fortunate to not have to be in that situation, sitting on
Why we did
a good cushion.
Right.
That we can utilize, but.
Right.
I think this is part of the challenge too of the PCIA. In some cases, it's taking costs from one year and moving them to another year. So that means that some years we'll have our net revenues will be very positive, and other years we're going to have to tap into those net revenues from a different year to stabilize rates for our customers.
Right, but in this analysis here, our rate stabilization fund goes away in 4 years or something like that?
It depends
We-
which scenario, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can't, if we go to 1%, we still come out maybe 2, because we're gonna add to it. I just wanna be sure that we're not, when we think about this, we're being as conservative as possible, so we're not handing future board problem that we created today.
Yes, and I agree 100%. I think you'll see that in our recommendation.
Okay, yeah.
So some benchmarking of where we sit right now relative to other CCAs. I want to emphasize here, this is just looking at generation costs. So that's the generation rate, that's PCIA. It does not look at delivery costs, which are about 2/3 of the bill, and I'll show that magnitude of that on the next slide. But looking at this right here, we look at how PCE compares with different CCA rates across the PG&E territory rather. Within PG&E's territory, about half CCAs are more expensive than PG&E currently, and about half of them are less. You may note, I'm not sure how good people's eyes are, but all the way on the far right is PCE, as we are the least expensive. We have the lowest rates of any CCA right now.
And I think one thing to note here is you can see several of our peers are cheaper, but are throwing out a nominal 1% for a variety of reasons that makes sense to them. So I think that's interesting to note.
On average here, it does note that the premium statewide is about $5 per month with CCA service, or I shouldn't say statewide, excuse me, across Northern California and PG&E's area is about $5 per month right now. For the typical household, for our customers, they're saving a little more than $4.
Question.
Yes.
One of the concerns just one concern that's been expressed about our rates being anywhere close to PG&E or above PG&E is that it would increase opt-outs. Of those 4 CCAs that are 5 that are substantially higher, do you have any information, Justin, about what the opt-outs are?
Yeah, I've worked at a CCA that's had rates that were higher than PG&E's for a multi-year period. I've spoken with some of the people at these CCAs. You'd be surprised, it's much less responsive than one might think. The opt-out rates have generally been very low. I've in fact seen prolonged rates being higher at another CCA, and even there, we'd actually increased customers over that year slightly.
So for San Francisco, 3CE, MCE, are there opt-out rates below 10%?
I believe most of them are. MCEs is around there. It might be slightly higher just because they were first, and so they had a higher opt-out rate initially.
Okay, thank you.
So what does 10% versus 5% versus 1% mean? Well, the difference between where rates sit right now and staff's proposal would increase the typical residential bill by about $2 per month. You can see here the green section is our generation rate, The orange section is the PCIA charge and the blue section is the delivery rate. So overall, this rate change would result in a bill increase of about 1.4%.
Okay, we're nearing the end. So that's some context. You can probably guess where this is going. Those of you in the executive committee and finance committee, you really know where this is going, which is to our recommendation. Given all this, the forecast PCIA rate of going down in 2027, going up in 2027, PG&E rates going down in 27, the ability to collect enough revenue to cover our costs. We are proposing to set rates at a 5% discount. Starting on July 1st and using a portion of our rate stabilization fund to help lower and stabilize rates. We think this is an appropriate balance between providing an affordable product as well as Donna mentioned, maintaining financial stability for the future. We are only recommending 5% for now. We will return to the board in January with an updated recommendation for the back half of the fiscal year. The reason for that is at that point, we will know for sure what the PCIA is on January 1st. We'll know for sure what PG&E generation rates are. We're guessing. We'd like to think it's more than a guess, but we're making estimates, but we'll have more clarity on that. And we'll also have 6 months or maybe 5 months at that point of our own financial performance. So we'll have a lot more information. At that point, we can make a recommendation for the back half of the year, which will likely be a rate decrease because of that graph that I showed before of another leg down. This is a summary, assuming that scenario of a 5% discount. We've also assumed for argument's sake that we reduce the discount to 1% in the years out. We're not saying that's going to happen at this point, but we had to assume something in the modeling. This is the resulting financial profile. You see the sales at top, the rate stabilization fund usage there. One thing I'll put a box around there because one thing I do want to note is the current fiscal year we're in now, and we're not approving anything with that year, has been favorable, better than budget. And we are recommending to defer about $30 million final amount will depend on how the results come out, but an additional $30 million into the rate stabilization fund. Doing so, we have to waive the limit, which we had put at the rate stabilization fund being no higher than 15%. We did this waiver last year. We thought it was a one-time waiver, but this year has been favorable again, and we think it's prudent to sock away, so to speak, another $30 million, which we will need, as you've all seen in the numbers, in the next several years. So if we add $30 million to the rate stabilization fund, that brings us to $158 million, and we will basically exhaust that in the next 2 years. $96 million is assumed in the budget year, and then the remainder in the next year. And you can see the resulting change in net position. You can also see at the bottom the resulting days cash on hand. It'll be a line basically between the 5 and the 1% line that I showed before because it's 5 at first and then going to 1%. I forgot to ask if people have questions along the way, but hopefully people will be able to interrupt. Oh, I see one over there. Sorry.
Thank you. So given how much of our rate stabilization fund is projected to be used through this coming budget year and the following year, what can we do? What more could we do, or are we considering perhaps to prepare ourselves to stay competitive in this currently forecast low rate market going forward? I understand you shared that right now there's some thought about this correcting and there may be better days ahead. You've talked a little bit about the possibility of reducing the discount further from 5% to potentially 1%. I guess I'm just curious if there's anything more that we're considering in terms of levers we might be able to pull as in case things were to somehow get worse, for example.
Well, yes, before I answer that, we do have cash cushion beyond the rate stabilization fund. And so we are sitting on substantial amounts. So even though it would result in a loss on this page, you can see even in fiscal year 28, it shows a resulting negative change in net position. We still have enough cash to cover that. And that's why the cash, barely dips below the 250 at the end. That being said, if things don't, your point is a good one. That line we showed has things improving in the out years. Maybe that doesn't happen. That's our best estimate. And we think it's an educated estimate. If that wasn't to happen, the two levers we have are one, continued cost containment. You know, unfortunately, cost of energy is the largest cost category and we're somewhat limited there, but there are some levers we have, such as adjusting some of our targets. I don't want to mention that too much, but that's a lever we have. And then there's also rates. Obviously, we never want to have to go there to have a product premium to PG&E. But you can see some of our peers are taking a different approach. They have already gone there, and I don't know what they're planning on the future. So that's, I'd say, a last minute resort, but that's the lever we have. And if we dip below 180 days, that's actually a mandate the boards may, you know, we have that as a policy. We have to take either increase rates or reduce costs such that we get back above that minimum. Did that answer your question? I feel like you're not fully satisfied.
I'll chew on it. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, let me add to that. I think there are other, there's no magic silver bullet, right? So I think there's other things that we would look at, like another prepay, which again is avoided cost of energies. These are just savings. We would continue, I think, our compensation and our hiring freeze. So again, like cost containment.
Yeah.
I don't think this will happen, but potentially we would expand our service territory and add customers and
Right.
revenues therein. Again, that is just this decision we've not made, but. So there are a couple of different dials that we can look at. I think what's really important is what Nick said, which is the rate stabilization fund is important, and I'm so glad we did it a couple of years ago. It is not the whole picture for us in terms of cash availability. And so this is hard and it was planned for.
And I would say I am a CFO. I stay up at night worrying about the scenario I think you're sort of hinting at. And that's why, to be honest, I'm recommending a 5% discount because we could let it ride for another year. 10%, we have the cash, but we think it's prudent to take baby steps there to conserve cash so that we leave the agency in as good shape for future generations or future boards.
We got 3 questions, Director Bowles, then Director DeGolia, then Director Bowles.
I may have written this down but wrong, but you said earlier that I think a 1 cent difference to the rate makes a 35 million change in revenues. I mean, it does make me nervous that we're getting rid of this fund, even understanding that we have others. So I mean, if we just went down to 4, so it's still, you know, the second highest.
The 1 cent, that's 1 cent, not a 1%.
I know,
Okay.
so I'm just saying, just to make that number a little bit better, could we compromise on 4 instead of 5? Or so, and how much of a difference does that make?
1% is probably a couple $1 million, right?
Oh,
From 5 to 4%, it's not even be. The problem is rates are so low already, so the percentage of a low number is not many cents.
And the other thing that would happen just practically
Uh-huh.
is that we work with Calpine to, essentially they have to go in and code all of our updated rates
Uh-huh.
to be ready to send out those bills. They're ready to go. If
At
the board
5,
agrees, if we
okay.
change it, it's not a big deal, but it just then would delay the rate change and that might absorb the differential.
Okay. And if it's only 1 or 2 million, that's not really enough to.
It would be a wash in that case.
All right, Director DeGolia.
Just to add on to what Sean said, this rate stabilization fund exists for this purpose. This is not a reserve. We have a separate reserve. So we're completely covered with our reserve. The rate stabilization fund was created because these rates are crazy. They are, and we can't predict them. It's truly nuts. And it's a PUC problem and we suffer for it. So the rate stabilization fund was a brilliant thing to do to protect us from this uncontrollable variability. And we're using it. It's great.
Fortunate that
We shouldn't worry about using up this money.
If I may add
We said
about
we
that.
would.
If I may add about that, I mean, kind of what has happened here is it used to be that market conditions, the forecast was what the PCI was based off of. That was it. Move into the next year, do it all over again. And so we could look at those costs as being a little more stable. what the commission instituted a number of years back was a true-up mechanism. So instead of just taking the forecast, it said, hey, like, let's now look at what the actuals were, compare it, and then push those costs or those benefits into the next year. And so when we're having this market sort of volatility that we've had over the last couple of years, it's amplifying the impacts. And unfortunately, that puts us in a position where we need to add to the rate stabilization fund or utilize that rate stabilization fund to mitigate that rate instability for customers. And I think we're doing an excellent job.
Director Copeland.
So two quick questions. One is, how is our sort of lobbying and other work going on PCIA, like with other CCAs? Sean, that's maybe a you question.
I mean, it's going, we see progress at the legislature with the piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Around the data transparency, and so far, that seems to be good. And so I feel like it's taken so many years just to even make the legislature aware of what it is. So incremental progress at best. It's also the subject of the subject of the workshop at the CPUC, where Commissioner Baker is looking at sort of a whole picture. Do I think it's gonna resolve things anytime soon? No, but let me pass it over to Sean.
Wish.
This is not the week to talk to me about PCIA.
Yeah,
I will
exactly.
say that, but you know, I think that this is probably a more favorable regulatory environment than we've had in the past, with Commissioner Baker saying he's open to a full evaluation of how the PCIA is calculated, whether we need a PCIA, whether we'd want something else to replace the stranded assets. I think there's also a larger question: how can we have explosive load growth from data centers and also have stranded assets?
Yeah.
Right? That math ain't mathin'.
Yeah.
Technically. So there's more questions to be had about the data center question and stranded assets. And so I think we're actually in a really unique time to address those issues.
Good.
But, you know,
And,
Will it
sounds-
happen?
It sounds like the gubernatorial candidates are, I mean, I don't know where we end up on this, but we're gonna have a change. I don't know if that could change the PUC board, and there could be other changes that come down. I'm assuming if a Democrat wins, that it would probably be pretty stable, or do usually those people get changed out?
those people do usually get changed out, but based on who the governor is and what their priorities are. I will say that both Governor Jerry Brown and Governor Gavin Newsom have said we are climate and energy governors, right? That's been a priority issue for them. That is not the case with the next two, the two primary winners.
We
So,
need to make it the case, so.
I do think there's a bigger focus on affordability from candidate Becerra's than there is on green energy goals.
But this is actually unaligned with that. In other words, affordability would be aligned by dealing with PCIA.
For CCA customers.
Yes, but not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily push the cost back onto PG&E or the other IOUs because of the data, because of the increasing demand for energy.
Well, I think this is why we're at a unique inflection point with the demand from data centers that we're beginning to see manifest. So I'm hoping that this is a good opportunity, but you know, Justin and I have been working on, and Sean, we've been working on PCIA for 15 years. So I'm not very hopeful right now, but it's a good opportunity. We are never going to let an opportunity go by.
And we'll talk about that offline too. And then the second question I have is back to Nick, so we have our days cash on hand and we have our reserves. What's our sort of, remind me of what the policy is around either refilling the tank on the rate stabilization fund? So in other words, we have just number hypothetical, we have 250 days cash on hand, we need to stay above 180. We start draining the reserve account. At what point do we start replenishing the reserve account on an accounting standpoint?
They're a little bit of a so the rates that we can only add to the rate stabilization fund when we have positive change in deposition,
Okay,
which we're not forecasting to have after this year. So there's no plans, I wish, there's no plans to be able to add to the rate stabilization fund after this year.
once we get,
But cash is a different,
right, so then technically, I just want to understand the accounting of this. Once
Okay.
we drain through the rate stabilization fund,
Yep.
if we do, then we essentially use the excess over 180 days cash on hand as our secondary cushion.
Correct. And that, yeah,
And that, so we don't officially move it into the stabilization
right,
fund.
we,
Okay,
so you can see a good example here is in fiscal year 28 that we're looking at the page. We are using the rate stabilization fund in this scenario, all that's left at this point is a model, so.
62 million.
Yeah, $62 million it's left, but we still have a loss that year of $25 million.
And that comes
And
out
that
of the
comes
days
out of
cash
our
on hand.
cash reserves.
Got it.
And that brings down, you can see the days cash on hand in the bottom line slowly going down each year. It's still above 180 days in this scenario, so I'm not losing sleep. It's not going in the right direction,
Mhm.
but it's above 180 days and pretty close to our target of 250.
Okay,
Sorry, Christine, I want to address your question. I've done some mental math, so correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. I appreciate the gesture of, 5 to 4%. I will say, we're only talking for the next 6 or 7 months. That would be about a $2 million difference in revenue. So not, I mean, I don't want to say 2 million is no money, but when we're talking about
Yeah,
dollars
that's
here,
not a
it's
big
not
help.
going to move the needle much.
Thank you, Nick.
Director Flynn?
Could you remind us again what the plan is for the next year you said in 6 months that you would revisit this?
So our plan, as we've done the last few years, to come back to the board in January with, it'll probably be a similar presentation. I think we did it in January for those of you around with, we will know at that point, the things we'll know that we don't know today are what the actual PCIA is. That graph we showed you as an estimate. I hope it's wrong, actually, but that's our estimate. We will know PG&E rates. They don't tell us those until January 1st, so we will know those. And we'll give you an update on where we are for the first 6 months of the year financially. Are we ahead of budget, behind budget? And then we will come with a recommendation of what do we want to do with rates for the next 6 months. We expect PG&E rates to go down and the PCIA to go up again. And so if we want to continue to offer a discount, any discount, we're going to likely have to lower our rates. And that's what we've assumed in the model. And that's why you can see in fiscal year 27 revenues, it's like half of 25 revenue to continue to go down.
We will run scenarios.
Yeah, we'll run, yeah.
So we'll probably run 5, 3, and 1. 5 and 1.
Sean may not let me run a positive.
No, I will not.
People who are switching off, what are the reasons they're given?
Excuse me, sorry.
The people who are switching out, and switching back to PG&E, what are the reasons they?
Oh, for the opt-outs?
Yeah,
Not rates.
It's not rates.
yeah, that's what I would think, because today, when I was going through the
Yeah,
packet and I was reading looking at my bill, something I actually really never do, because I only looked at it because for some reason my auto pay wasn't working. Otherwise, I never look at it. So as long as I kind of just have in my head, I'm about to spend about this every month, but I don't know how many people really.
For the most part,
Really?
from the customers that, because sometimes folks can opt out without having a conversation with us, right? We do have an ability for people to opt out online or through the IVR system, so they don't have to go through an agent to opt out. But for customers that do go through our agents to opt out, usually there are times with solar customers opt out because they were told to opt out by their installer. And some folks like to get, if you're a solar customer with PG&E, under the NEM2 program, you get like an annual bill versus having to pay a bill every month. We have less of that now that we're in the solar billing plan program or NEM3, because both PG&E and PCE do have to pay your bill every month under that newer solar program. Also, folks are just confused, even though we explain to them that we're not an extra charge on their bill. They are getting their full care benefits. They are able to do this. We'll walk through a whole process with them. They're just like, well, I just want to opt out. And then if it's more expensive, maybe I'll come back later. So that ends up being, usually it's a handful of folks that have already decided they want to opt out. And when someone's made a decision to do that, it is difficult to walk people back. Our agents are very good at it. We have a very, very low opt-out rate. Maybe, 5 to 10 a week, which is much lower than any other CCA, talking to my counterparts. But
it's never rates.
It's never rate.
It's always been
It's never factually rates. Sometimes it is
Perceived.
Perceived.
it is perceived, or it is a misunderstanding or a belief that we're not telling the truth.
I mean, I can see why
Yeah.
there's such a confusion, because I, you know, like I said, I was looking at
Yeah.
it today, it's just absurd. I don't understand why PG&E charges us a rate and then gives a discount, and then you go to another page and then there's the extra charges for PCE.
Yeah,
Why is that set up that way? Is there no
That
way to
is,
get them to change?
so the billing, the way that the billing in terms of like the bundled presentation of rates and then the subtraction of the generation charge and then our separate page of charges. That is just the way that the billing works. It's a lot of reasons. Yeah, I mean, that is what PG&E's billing is capable of handling. They have they're sort of mandated to present a bundled bill and a bundled charge, on their bill presentation for customers to wrap all the charges into one. And then in order for us to have charges on the bill, they have to then secondarily back out the generation charge.
We have
on
no
their
control,
bill.
basically.
Yeah, we don't have control.
If we,
And
if
who
we,
does?
The CPUC.
Let can we?
yeah, let's go ahead and move on. We have another item after
Talk to
this.
Leslie, Ashton.
Director McHugh.
Yeah, very quick. Assuming the board is okay with the 5% plan, do we need to get that approved by regulator, and how do we communicate it to the customers in the outside world?
We don't need any approval by regulators. Our rates are not regulated.
Well, you're the regulator.
Yeah, you're the regulator. The
Yeah.
board has to set rates. We're not regulated by the CPUC. And we probably, I mean, Gwen's not here, but given it's gonna be a slight rate increase, we're probably not gonna be market. I mean, when we were increasing the discount or lowering rates, we get the word out a little more. We will not be,
It's gonna change on the website. We have a joint rate mailer going out in August, so that new rate will show there. And that's typically what we do.
I really only have one more page, so I'm done.
Okay.
Is this not working? Sorry, the next page, if someone can.
It's the whole thing.
Oh, sorry. We have one page in here. This was included. I won't go through the numbers, but this is all of it together. What some people like to see. This was also sent out ahead of time. It's the revenues that we talked about, assuming the 5% discount, moving to a 1%, which is not set, but just for modeling purposes. The rate stabilization fund, deferral, and usage, and then all the cost categories. Again, the same numbers we've shown before, but just in one clear place, so you can see. And the red box, the budgeted year. And then the final page is our proposal to set rates, Eco Plus rates at an average of 0.072 cents. Means 0.072 cents per kilowatt hours, effective July 1, if we can get it in right away, which will result in a 5% discount to PG&E.
All right, so we have any public comment?
If there are any members of the public who would like to offer comment, please raise your hand and Zoom application.
All right, no public comment. Director.
Sorry, could I just ask, in the 5-year forecast?
Sure.
And in which year are we currently forecasting a shift from the 5% discount to 1%?
The current fiscal year, the budget year. Because
Budget year.
which is, we are assuming, we may not come to fruition, but our assumption, because we have to model something, is we're 5% starting on July 1st until February 1st. And come back to the board, we make a recommendation. I don't know what that recommendation will be, but we have to assume something. For conservative sake, I assume 1%. And so for the first half of the year, it's 5%, second half, it's 1% of fiscal year 27, and then from then on out, it's 1%. That make sense?
Yeah. Thank
Sorry.
Move approval. Second.
Move to approve by Lorraine, second by DeGolia.
One stage, reverse, hospital.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County, Atherton,
Yeah.
Belmont,
Yes.
Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Holma,
Yes.
Daly City,
Away.
I'll see. East Palo Alto, Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Daly City,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley. Yes. Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco,
Yes.
Woodside.
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes.
All right. Last item of the night.
Oh, sorry. Our last item this evening is approval of the Peninsula Clean Energy Commercial Electrification Program that will be presented by Shelby Bush, our Energy Efficiency Programs Manager.
Hey everyone, glad to be here tonight. I am gonna fly through this because I know that I'm between you and getting to your below. So, I am here to present the commercial electrification program. We're asking for the board to approve the creation of this program to provide financial incentives for commercial customers or business customers to, oh, there we go, to replace existing fossil fuel powered equipment. Okay. So we've all seen the pie slice. We're talking about buildings today. And we have some existing programs. We have REACH codes. We have a technical assistance program. Then we have our single family residential home upgrade programs and our local government incentives and financing. What we don't have right now is an offering for our business customers to help them electrify and decarbonize. So why are we doing this? Customers are asking for it. We've heard this, our account services team has heard it. I heard it during our energy efficiency application outreach that we did last year. And they don't really have an opportunity to get financial incentives for electrification right now, through BayREN or even PG&E. The way that those programs that are, these providers are regulated, there's just not really a great opportunity for electrification based off of the requirements from the CPUC. So they just don't have the ability to get help doing this. And a lot of times there's a high upfront cost to electrification and no ROI. So they're having a really hard time doing this, even though they want to do electrification. And our commercial customers are about 38%, almost 40% of our methane emissions in our service territory. So we haven't even begun to touch this big slice of the pie yet with our programs. And then lastly here, it's a part of our bigger plan here. So like the PG&E and BayREN programs, we have a proposed energy efficiency portfolio that would begin in 2028. And this program would integrate with those future programs so that our business customers can have a holistic approach to both energy efficiency and electrification. It's going to help us meet our goals, and I'm going to pass through that one because you guys know our goals. And so talking about program design really quickly, this would be open to all business customers, any shape, size, industry. And we would be offering very simple electrification rebates. If you're familiar with our home upgrade appliance incentives, works very similar to that. So very simple, low barrier to entry. And for those customers that need a little bit more support in their electrification journey, we're going to leverage our existing technical support that we have through our REACH codes contract to help them along the way, help them along the journey. And so it's designed to be super simple. Customers can access interest online and locate participating contractors on the website. And we will have a contractor network, but it will still be the customer's choice. So if their preferred contractor is not in the network, very low barrier to entry for their preferred contractor to join our network. And then lastly here, we'll have a flexible incentive payment. So the incentive will default to the customer, but it can get signed over to the contractor if they would like to receive like an instant rebate at the beginning. So the goal here, and I just want to reiterate here that we're looking at very simple off-the-shelf type of commercial equipment. So no large complex electrification, no industrial processes or like big central plants, anything like that. We're talking about, heat pump water heaters, heat pump HVAC, and some cooking equipment. Speaking of those categories, this is the proposed list of measures that we would offer through the program. We have our water heating measures, our heating and cooling measures, and then a variety of culturally inclusive cooking electrification measures. We're gonna cap the incentive initially at $50,000 so that we can disperse the funding across many different customers. And I'm gonna fly through the next question. What about budget and staffing? So we're estimating that the annual budget would probably be somewhere around $1 million annually for this program. And we're intending to handle that within the existing budget that was just approved. So no additional financial ask here. And we're also going to run it with existing PCE staff. And so no external contracts, no additional costs. So just within the budget as it is. And that's it. I flew through that. Wow. Questions.
Okay, that's great.
I was wondering how you were going to vet financially solvent commercial customers who really don't need this program from taking advantage of it. When I saw the list of what the items would be, it's not supporting a large building. No. But would this include a landlord that owns apartments? Because you could say that's residential, but it's a commercial investment.
Yeah, we haven't discussed including multifamily in this program. We're thinking more businesses in this sense. Multifamily in programs is typically in the residential category, even though it can function on the commercial side.
And what about a mixed use building where you may have ground floor retail with housing above, where maybe the HVAC is shared, or who knows what?
Yeah, so we would focus on customers that are on commercial rates. So the mixed use, the residential section of the commercial, like that would be the residential section, and then below would be the commercial. So yeah, a retail space, a liquor store or something that is underneath a multifamily building would be able to participate. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Director Lorraine.
Thank you. I'm just curious if there might be partnership opportunities with, I'm thinking like SAMCETA or the county chamber, even maybe the county sustainability department or like the green business programs that might be around. Because it seems like we could at least get good media exposure from offering this in a way that is clear to local businesses that might be able to qualify.
Yeah, those are all really great ideas. We have the primary marketing strategy for this program is intended to be a contractor network. And so contractors themselves would be kind of going out there and pushing the incentives. And so it kind of brings down our cost. We just have the cost to bring them into the network, and they kind of do the work for us. But absolutely partnering and engaging at least with like RICAPs, for example, and the local chambers. Those are all great ideas to get the word out. Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate this proposal and look forward to learning updates when it's ready. Because to me, I feel like even board members might have an opportunity to make connections with local businesses and say, hey, you know, the Westlight Energy has something to offer to potentially reduce costs, get greener, and so on. And looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I forgot to mention that we're not anticipating to launch until early next year. So we're giving lots of runway for launch time.
Director Ragsdale, then Bowles, then we'll go back to Sean.
I was very pleased to hear the culturally inclusive electrification, and just wanted to know if you could expand on how you what kind of research you needed to do to make sure you didn't miss anything.
I wish that I had Blake here and on the call, because we've done a lot of Blake, our senior engineer on our programs team, he's done a lot of research on the commercial equipment, has quite a bit of experience in doing this. And so he did the initial research. We looked at what kind of things are out there in the market and what they cost and what the difference would be from, you know, the cost of getting just another gas appliance and getting the electric appliance. And so, yeah, we did the research. We can always add to, like, if there's other things that come up that a customer is, if we have, the great thing about this being a self-funded CCA program is that we're flexible. We can be flexible. So if there are other things that come up, we would absolutely consider putting them in.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Director, we have about five. Director Bowles, Sharma, DeGolia, Toronto, and then Mac.
Just a quick question. Is there a difference between a business that owns their building versus a tenancy?
Yeah, it can complicate the process a little bit. You know, I think a lot of tenants like us thinking about getting into our new space, right? We are investing in some of the renovation of that building, and so is the landlord. And I think a lot of times these things happen like this in business in general. And so in commercial, sometimes you see that it is the tenant who is paying for it and just needs to get permission by the landlord to do so, which a landlord is getting an upgrade and they're not paying for it. So, okay. And sometimes it's vice versa. So it can complicate the application process a little bit because there's some additional signatures probably that would need to occur, but yeah, it could be either.
All right, Director Sharma.
Thank you so much. It's really good to see something like this launching. Just a couple of thoughts, and I'm putting on more of my sustainability department hat on now versus kind of the director hat here, the board here. I think with the size of the incentives that you're offering, it might end up being a smaller business versus a larger one. And then there, the challenge is they often don't own the space, right? They're leasing, they're tenants. So that makes it very complicated. So I would certainly say, like, you think about that aspect as well. You did say you don't want to do any, big size projects, which I understand, but I'm just like, you're going to run into some of those challenges. And the second one I would say is we've had a lot of learning over the years by running the Green Business Program on the challenges that you run into, both in terms of what's feasible and what's not, but secondly, how you really have to approach the businesses, especially if you're trying to reach, more of minority and ethnic businesses as well, that it's a completely different approach. And we as staff don't do it. We contract with organizations like Environmental Innovations. They hire staff who are specifically either Spanish speaking, or we partnered with the Chinese Business Associations. I'm just saying, like, there's been a lot of learning there on how you go into these spaces to even talk to them. So just leaning on the contractors may not yield you the results you're looking for. So I'm just offering, we're happy to sit down and have that conversation with you on the existing contracts that we have for our Green Business Program and how the two can partner together as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate that opportunity, and I would love to chat about that and discuss for sure.
Director DeGolia, please.
So my question is, your assumption is that it's about $1 million in this fiscal year we're coming into. And that $1 million is coming out of the previously existing programs budget. Does that mean that that was an excessive budget? That we didn't need all that money in that budget?
That's coming out of the budget you just approved.
I understand,
Oh,
but it didn't include this specifically, or it does include this?
It does include.
Specifically for $1 million. Okay.
Yeah, and just
Remember that?
Yeah, no, I do.
and just to be clear, for fiscal year 27, we're launching early next year. So we're not really anticipating a ton of the budget to be included in that specific fiscal year, just because we're losing half of a year, basically.
Are you expecting the $1 million to be over 12 months or from January through June?
Over 12 months. Very good question, thank you.
Thank you. I've been enjoying this. I'm just gonna tap on what Adam was saying. I'm a director on the Daly City Coma Chamber of Commerce. We just had a meeting. We have these events called Connect the Dots. And so we have speakers come and we invite businesses, and in Daly City, we have more small than large. So it sounds like it would be a really good fit. And would that be something we could book with you to come and maybe do it a little different? Usually it's someone comes and speaks, but listening to you, it would be like someone comes and speaks and then maybe businesses could speak and get little contact information. Is that something we could work out?
Oh, yeah,
We could
absolutely.
can
I
get a lot
love
of
the
those-
opportunities. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I just want to double check. Okay.
Dovetailing off of that idea, I think that's a great idea. I know Gwen in marketing have contact with different cities' chambers, a good approach. And I just thought of this, I don't know about the efficacy, but letting the trades know that we're doing this, because they have a contact with a lot of people and doing work. And that might be just another avenue to get the word out.
Yeah, yes. We have designed the program because of that exact strategy where we're gonna offer the contractor network so that because the contractors are doing this work all of the time, right? So it is sometimes harder to go directly to businesses and recruit them to do these projects, but once the contractors are in our network, we can help train them on like right sizing electrification. We can, make sure that they understand how to do the application processing. So the customer is more hands off and doesn't have to deal with the administrative burden. And we can scale through the work that the trades are already doing.
I bring it up because we have contact with someone who's retired in the trades who does teaching. And he is now so into PCE. He's just telling everybody, it was worth its weight in gold.
Director Colson.
Thank you. My question is around due diligence on the recipients, to make sure that they're financially feasible. I remember during COVID, we were doing grants in our city and I was watching businesses apply, where when you went to the business address, there was a produce sign. They had already closed up and they were applying. This is physical equipment and not dollars. So I assume if we outfit space and the tenant or the business goes bankrupt, that hopefully the new tenant would use it, but I would hate to see. Yeah, I would like to see that businesses are financially feasible and that they have a business plan and they have like a track record of some sort, in order that we're not giving money to people. It happens, I'm sure, in all your towns where a new business is coming and then somehow they don't ever really get their doors open. And I'm sorry, there's a little bag of my hair that's calling me.
I got it.
Yeah, thank you. So do we have that layered in at all? Any kind of due diligence on it?
I think,
we can add it.
yeah,
I just think I don't know how everybody else feels, but I really think it's important to just make sure that they have
There's some
Going-
qualifications.
they have an ongoing business that's financially feasible. Maybe we ask for their, basic financials or something, or,
May
just-
already be baked in.
Yeah, I don't.
And one quick comment, the incentives go in after the project is completed, so we're verifying that everything is actually done.
Right.
Or any
So, like,
incentives.
we had like a grocery store go in, a small little independent grocery store. They put all new equipment in, everything went in. They never even opened their doors. And frankly, it was PG&E's fault because they took 2 years to hook up their equipment and they went bankrupt during that time. So I just want to make sure that like they can actually, I mean, even my own business, when I opened it, the city required an additional $300,000 of improvements that weren't in my budget. I was fortunate enough to be able to do it. Most businesses would just close their doors before they even open them.
Absolutely.
Director Nash.
When you require a city business license,
That might also be a way. Yes.
Yeah.
We'll also build in an audit function to the contract. We're not there yet, but we're working together.
I think an audit function would be great, so we can look back at the efficacy and say, like, in a year, we did all these businesses, they're still operating, you know. They think they've saved $1,000 on their electric bill and whatever, yeah, that would be great. I just hate to give money
Yes,
away.
yes. Any other questions? This is our last item, so public comment then, yes.
If there are any members of the public who would like to take comment, if you'll please raise your hand as we do that.
All right, this is an action item. Scanning the room. I heard so moved over here, Director Bowles and then Director Lorraine.
Second.
Hey, you gotta go, let's go.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County, Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont,
Yes.
Brisbane.
Yes.
Burlingame.
Yes.
Colma,
Yes.
Daly City.
Yes.
East Palo Alto, Foster City.
Yes.
Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos. Los Banos,
Yes.
Menlo Park.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Woo, this is a long night. Millbrae, Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley,
Yes.
Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco,
Yes.
Woodside.
Yes.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Yeah. Yay.
All right. All right, it's our last PCE meeting. And thank you all for hanging out. It was a lot of good work done tonight.
Board member report.
Board member reports, yes. That was my report. Anybody?
I'll
Yes.
say something. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for passing a resolution to support the Polluters Pay Climate Superfund Act just in the last month. And thank you, James, for speaking at an event recently. So the push is to try to get as many municipalities as possible to consider resolutions for this. To make the oil companies pay for the damage to our cities, damage to health. For all the years that they, haven't been telling us the truth for the impacts of the greenhouse gases. And the bill will be reintroduced early next year. And it's the hope that with more municipalities signing on, that gives a little bit more pressure to the legislature. So.
And just a question on that. We still in a suit, we're still suing, county's still suing. The. Never mind. All right.
Any other reports?
I'll just say I was very honored to be at the event by the two business magazines where PCE, formerly known as PCE almost, thought of the one of the best places to work. And it's just, it was a great event and it was on Sean's birthday. It was very nice that she still came and represented.
It's a good way to spend it.
But congratulations again.
Yes, congratulations, yes. Happy birthday. With all the reports, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone, for staying so long. Thank you.
Yeah.